The alarm screamed through sensor station Gamma 7 like an angry beast. Thelnax jumped from his chair, his forearms moving quickly across the control panel. His large eyes widened as he stared at the display screen. Something was wrong. Very wrong. For 20 years, Thelnax had watched the edge of Valorian space. 20 boring years of watching empty darkness. Ships came and went. Traders, military vessels, mining craft. He knew them all. They followed the rules. They sent identification codes. They stayed on approved routes, but this thing on his screen followed no rules. Computer, identify vessel, Thelnax said, his voice shaking slightly. Unknown, the computer replied in its flat, emotionless tone. No identification signal detected. No registered energy signature in database. Thelnax felt his blood run cold. In 3,000 years of Valorian history, every ship in the galaxy was catalogued. Every single one. The Valorian Empire made sure of that. They controlled 47 star systems. They had the most powerful military in known space. Nothing moved without their knowledge, until now. Display speed, Thelnax commanded. The numbers appeared on his screen. He read them once. Then again. Then a third time. His hands began to shake. Impossible, he whispered. The vessel was moving at speeds that broke every law of physics he knew. It was traveling faster than anything the Valorians had ever built. Faster than anything they had ever seen. And it was getting faster. Thelnax slammed his hand on the emergency communication button. This is Station Gamma 7 to Fleet Command. We have an unidentified vessel. Priority 1 situation. It's moving at impossible speeds. I repeat, impossible speeds. The response came within seconds. Station Gamma 7, confirm your readings. Run a full diagnostic on your equipment. Already done, sir, Thelnax replied. 3 times. The readings are correct. This vessel is real. There was a long pause. Then a different voice came through the speaker, deeper, commanding. This is Admiral Kreshitar. I am taking personal command of the situation. Send me all data immediately. The Third Fleet will intercept. Thelnax sent the data and watched his screen. The mysterious vessel continued on its path, completely ignoring the Valorian warning beacons that should have stopped any ship. It didn't slow down. It didn't change course. It just kept moving. 2 hours later, Admiral Kreshitar arrived with 6 battlecruisers. Each ship was 5 kilometers long, bristling with weapons. They were the pride of the Valorian military. Ships that had conquered worlds. Ships that had never been defeated. Thelnax watched from his station as the fleet tried to intercept the unknown vessel. He held his breath as the massive warships moved into position. This would be quick, he thought. 6 battlecruisers against 1 small ship. There was no contest, he was right. There was no contest. But not in the way he expected. The unknown vessel simply dodged them. It moved like a small fish avoiding large, slow predators. When the battlecruisers turned left, the vessel went right. When they tried to surround it, the vessel accelerated and slipped through the gaps. It made turns that should have torn any ship apart from the force. It changed direction without slowing down, as if the laws of physics didn't apply to it. Admiral Kreshitar fired warning shots. Plasma torpedoes that could destroy a moon streaked through space. The vessel avoided them easily, almost lazily. Then it did something that made Thelnax gasp. It stopped. Completely stopped. In an instant. From incredible speed to 0 with no gradual slowing. Just full stop. The battlecruisers shot past it, unable to slow down in time. By the time they turned around, the vessel was gone. It had jumped back to full speed and disappeared into the darkness. Where did it go? Admiral Kreshitar's voice roared through the communication channel. Thelnax frantically searched his sensors. Sir, I have it. It's heading toward... Oh no. Report. It's heading into the dead zone, Admiral. The uncharted region. The dead zone. Even the Valorians didn't go there. It was a region of space with no known planets, no resources, nothing of value. Or so they thought. Thelnax tracked the vessel as it entered the dead zone and approached a yellow star. A star that wasn't on any map. A star that shouldn't exist. Admiral, the vessel is entering a star system. I'm picking up 9 planets. The 3rd planet from the star shows. It shows electromagnetic signals. Industrial activity. There's a civilization there, sir. The communication channel went silent. Thelnax waited, his heart's pounding in his chest. Finally, Admiral Kreshitar spoke. Return to your post, Station Gamma 7. Report everything you saw directly to the Council of 5. Tell no one else. This information is now classified at the highest level. The channel closed. Thelnax sat back in his chair staring at his screen. A civilization in the dead zone, a vessel that moved like nothing they had ever seen, technology that seemed to mock everything the Valorians believed about physics and engineering. 3 days later, the Council of Five met in their grand chamber on the Valorian homeworld. 5 beings who ruled an empire that stretched across the stars. They watched the recordings from Station Gamma 7 in silence. Council leader Vexton spoke first. Could this be precursor technology? The precursors, the ancient race that had ruled the galaxy millions of years ago. They had disappeared, leaving behind ruins and legends. The Valorians had built their empire on what little precursor technology they could find and understand. If the precursors have returned, another council member said quietly, then our empire means nothing. We must know more, Vexton decided. Send our best intelligence ships. Find out everything about this civilization, but do not engage, not yet. We need to understand what we're dealing with. Over the next 2 weeks, Valorian spy ships crept close to the mysterious star system. They stayed hidden, using every stealth technology the Empire possessed. They watched. They listened. They recorded. What they discovered shocked them. The inhabitants of the third planet were primitives. Well, not completely primitive. They had basic space travel. They had split the atom. They had computers and satellites. But compared to the Valorian Empire, they were children playing with toys. The spy ship sent back images of the planet. Cities covered in lights, vehicles on roads, primitive spacecraft in orbit. The beings there called themselves humans. They had only 2 arms, 2 eyes, no natural weapons or armor. They looked weak, fragile. How can such primitives possess such advanced ships? Council member Tharzone asked, confusion clear in his voice. The intelligence officer presenting the report shifted uncomfortably. We don't know, honored council member. Their general technology level suggests they achieved space travel only recently, maybe 50 of their years ago. But that vessel we encountered, it surpasses our best ships in speed and maneuverability. Could they have found a precursor cache? Vexton suggested. Perhaps they stumbled upon ancient technology they don't fully understand. That would explain it, Tharzone agreed. Scavengers playing with tools beyond their comprehension. Dangerous but manageable. Vexton leaned forward in his seat. Then we will manage them. Admiral Kreshtar will assemble an armada. 30 ships should be more than sufficient to overwhelm any defense these humans might have. We will take their precursor technology. We will bring these humans into our empire, as we have done with 23 other species before them. They will serve us or they will be eliminated. The council voted. The decision was unanimous. The Valorian Empire would invade the human homeworld. They would take what they wanted. After all, they had done it many times before. This would be no different. But as the council members left the chamber, none of them considered one important question. If the humans were truly primitive scavengers, why hadn't they used their advanced vessel to explore the galaxy? Why hadn't they made contact with other civilizations? Why had they stayed hidden in their unknown star system, watching and waiting? The Valorians didn't ask these questions. They were too confident, too certain of their superiority. They had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. They had conquered every species they had encountered. They believed humans would be no different. They were very, very wrong. In the darkness of space, the ISV Pathfinder returned to Earth. Commander Sarah Chen sat in the captain's chair, reviewing the data they had collected on the Valorian Empire. She had seen their ships, studied their tactics, watched how they responded to the unknown. Well, her tactical officer asked, "What do you think?" Sarah smiled coldly. "I think they're coming, and I think they're in for a surprise." Earth had been preparing for this moment for decades, the moment when humanity would finally reveal itself to the galaxy. But they wouldn't do it on their knees. They wouldn't do it as victims. They would do it as equals, or not at all. The war was coming, and humanity was ready. Commander Sarah Chen stood in front of the United Terran Coalition, the governing body of Earth and its colonies. 200 representatives from every nation and settlement watched her on their screens. They waited for her report. The room was silent except for the soft hum of computers. 3 weeks ago, the Pathfinder encountered a Valorian sensor station. Sarah began, her voice steady and calm. We were conducting deep space reconnaissance as ordered. When we detected their sensors, I made the decision to test their response capabilities before revealing our presence. A representative from the Asian Union raised his hand. "Commander Chen, You deliberately provoked a potential first contact situation without authorization? Sarah met his gaze without flinching. Yes, sir. I believed it was necessary to understand who we were dealing with before introducing ourselves. Would you prefer we had simply announced ourselves to a civilization we knew nothing about? The representative sat back, saying nothing more. Sarah continued. The Valorians responded exactly as our psychological profiles predicted. They sent warships. They attempted to capture or destroy us. They showed aggression toward the unknown. This tells us everything we need to know about their first contact protocols. She pressed a button on her control panel. A holographic display appeared above the conference table, showing detailed images of Valorian ships, weapons, and technology. Our intelligence division has spent the last 3 weeks analyzing everything we observed. The Valorian Empire controls 47 star systems. They have subjugated 23 different species. Their military operates on a hierarchical structure with little room for independent thinking. Their ships are large, powerful, but slow and inflexible. The Secretary General of the Coalition, Maria Santos, leaned forward. Commander, what is your assessment? Will they attempt to make contact? Sarah nodded slowly. They will make contact, Madam Secretary. But not the kind you're hoping for. Our spy satellites detected Valorian intelligence ships near our solar system. They've been watching us for 2 weeks. They've seen our cities, our technology level, our population, and they've made a conclusion. What conclusion? Santos asked, though her expression suggested she already knew the answer. They think we're primitives who stumbled upon advanced technology. They think we found some ancient alien artifacts and don't know how to properly use them. They see us as weak, as prey. The room erupted in angry voices. Representatives shouted questions and protests. Santos slammed her hand on the table, demanding silence. Are you saying they will attack us? Santos asked. I'm saying it's inevitable, Sarah replied. The Valorians have followed the same pattern with every species they've encountered. First they observe, then they invade, then they subjugate. They will follow this pattern with us. A military advisor stood up. How long do we have? Based on the time it took them to mobilize against previous targets, I estimate 4 to 6 weeks. They'll assemble a fleet large enough to overwhelm any defense they think we might have. Probably 30 to 50 ships. Can we defend against that? Santos asked quietly. Sarah smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. Madam Secretary, humanity has been preparing for this scenario for 50 years. Since the moment we achieved faster-than-light travel, we knew this day would come. The day we would meet another spacefaring civilization. We hoped for peace, but we prepared for war. She pressed another button. The holographic display changed, showing Earth's defensive systems. Orbital weapons platforms, lunar bases bristling with railguns, asteroid fortresses scattered throughout the solar system, hidden missile batteries on Mars and the moons of Jupiter. For 5 decades we've turned our solar system into a fortress, Sarah explained. While the Valorians built their empire through conquest, we built our defenses in secret. Every planet, every moon, every significant asteroid has been weaponized. We've created defensive networks that can respond to threats in milliseconds. We've developed weapon systems designed specifically to counter larger, slower vessels. She brought up another display, and we've done something the Valorians never considered. We've prepared for asymmetric warfare. The military advisor leaned closer. Explain. The Valorians fight like they think. Big, slow, hierarchical. They rely on massive ships and overwhelming firepower. They expect their enemies to fight the same way. But we won't. Our ships are smaller, faster, more maneuverable. We use artificial intelligence to coordinate attacks in ways that require thousands of human pilots working in perfect sync. We use drone swarms that can adapt to changing battlefield conditions faster than any organic crew. We use kinetic weapons that their energy shields can't stop. Sarah paused, looking around the room. The Valorians think they know what humanity is capable of. They've watched our television broadcasts. They've seen our commercial spacecraft. They've measured our technology level. And they've made a fatal mistake. They've judged us by what they can see. What can't they see? Santos asked. They can't see our military installations. They're all hidden underground or on the dark sides of moons. They can't see our true ship capabilities. The Pathfinder was running on minimal power, using only a fraction of its actual speed. They can't see our weapons technology because we've never had to use it. And most importantly, they can't see our willingness to fight. Sarah's expression hardened. The Valorians have conquered 23 species. Do you know what all those species had in common? They surrendered. When the Valorian fleets arrived, when they saw the massive warships and overwhelming numbers, they gave up. They traded freedom for survival. It's a logical choice from a certain perspective. She looked directly at Secretary General Santos. Humanity won't make that choice. We didn't claw our way to the top of Earth's food chain by surrendering. We didn't survive ice ages and plagues and wars by giving up. We won't start now. The room fell silent. Every person there understood what Sarah was really saying. War was coming, and humanity would fight. Santos stood up slowly. Commander Chen, I'm authorizing full military mobilization. All defensive systems are to be brought to combat readiness. All reserve forces are to be activated. Every ship in our fleet is to be prepared for combat operations. She looked around at the representatives. Ladies and gentlemen, we knew this day might come. We hoped it wouldn't, but we prepared anyway. Now we'll see if our preparations were enough. Over the next 3 weeks, Earth transformed. Factories that had been producing civilian goods switched to military production. Orbital platforms that looked like simple solar collectors revealed their true nature as weapons systems. The population was informed that first contact had been made, and that the contact was not friendly. There was fear. Of course there was fear, but there was also determination. Humanity had always been at its best when facing impossible odds. Sarah Chen returned to the Pathfinder, now designated as the flagship of the 1st Defense Fleet. Her crew of 60 worked around the clock, coordinating with other ships running combat simulations, preparing for the battle they knew was coming. Her tactical officer, Marcus Webb, approached her in the command center. Commander, long-range sensors are picking up something. Multiple FTL signatures on the edge of the system. Sarah felt her heart rate increase, but her voice remained calm. How many? Marcus checked his display. 32, no, wait. More are arriving. 35, 40, they're still coming. Sarah activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands, this is the commander. Valorian fleet detected entering the solar system. Battle stations. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Alarms began to sound throughout the Pathfinder. Crew members rushed to their positions. Weapon systems powered up. Shields activated. Throughout the solar system, the same scene repeated on 17 other human warships, on orbital platforms, on lunar bases, on the hidden fortresses scattered through the asteroid belt. Sarah watched her screen as the Valorian fleet assembled at the edge of the solar system. 47 ships total, more than they had expected. Each ship was enormous, dwarfing even humanity's largest vessels. They're hailing us, Marcus reported. Put them through. The screen flickered, and a Valorian face appeared. Admiral Krechter, though Sarah didn't know his name yet. He looked exactly like the intelligence reports had described. 4 arms, large compound eyes, natural armor plating. He looked strong, dangerous, confident. Primitive beings of the 3rd planet. Kreshtar's voice boomed through the speaker, his words translated by the Pathfinder's computer. You are hereby ordered to surrender. Power down your vessels. Prepare to be boarded. Resistance will be met with overwhelming force. This is your only warning. Sarah looked at Marcus. He raised an eyebrow, waiting for her response. Sarah turned back to the screen. This is Commander Sarah Chen of the United Terran Coalition. We are the humans of Earth. We acknowledge your presence and we extend an invitation to diplomatic discussions. However, we will not surrender. We will not power down our vessels, and we will not be boarded. Kreshitar's eyes widened slightly. He clearly hadn't expected a refusal. You dare defy the Valorian Empire? He growled. Do you not see our fleet? Do you not understand what will happen to your world if you resist? Sarah smiled coldly. Admiral, we understand perfectly. Admiral Kreshtar stared at the blank screen where the human commander's face had been moments before. His 4 hands clenched into fists. In 30 years of military service, no one had ever spoken to him like that. No one had ever refused a direct order from the Valorian military. That primitive dares to threaten me? He snarled. His bridge crew remained silent, knowing better than to speak when the admiral was angry. Kreshitar turned to his weapons officer. Target their vessels. All of them. Prepare to fire on my command. Sir, sensors are detecting 17 human ships in defensive formation near their 4th planet. They appear to be waiting for us. 17. Kreshtar laughed. We have 47 capital ships. This will be over in minutes. All vessels advance to attack position. Show these humans what happens when they defy the Valorian Empire. The massive fleet began moving forward. engines glowing bright as they accelerated toward the human defensive line. On the Pathfinder, Sarah Chen watched the approaching Valorian ships with a calm expression that didn't match the tension she felt inside. "All ships report ready, Commander," Marcus Webb announced. "Weapons systems online. Drone bays loaded. AI combat coordination is active." Sarah nodded. "Good, remember the plan. We're not trying to win a head-on fight. We're trying to hurt them badly enough that they'll think twice about continuing. And if they don't think twice, then we hurt them more." The Valorian fleet opened fire first. Dozens of plasma torpedoes streaked through space, bright blue trails marking their paths. Energy beams lanced out from the massive warships, each beam carrying enough power to vaporize a small moon. "Evasive maneuvers," Sarah commanded calmly. Pattern Delta 7. The 17 human ships scattered in what looked like a panic response. The Valorian weapons fire missed every single target. The plasma torpedoes exploded harmlessly in empty space. The energy beams hit nothing but vacuum. On his bridge, Kreshitar frowned. "How did they know where we would fire?" His tactical officer checked his displays. "Unknown, sir. It's as if they predicted our targeting solutions before we even locked on." What the Valorians didn't know was that human artificial intelligence could analyze thousands of variables in milliseconds. Ship positions, weapon charge times, energy signatures, even the micro-movements of Valorian gun turrets. The human ships weren't reacting to the Valorian attacks. They were predicting them and moving before the weapons even fired. "All ships return fire," Sarah ordered. "Target their shield generators. Kinetic rounds only." The human vessels unleashed their counterattack. Railguns fired solid projectiles accelerated to incredible speeds. Missiles launched from hidden bays, each one guided by its own AI targeting system. And from the belly of each human ship, thousands of small drones deployed, each no larger than a car but packed with explosives and guidance systems. The Valorian shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, were nearly useless against physical projectiles moving at a significant fraction of light speed. The kinetic rounds punched through shields like they weren't even there, slamming into armor plating with devastating force. 3 Valorian ships took critical damage in the first 30 seconds of combat. One had its main engine destroyed. Another lost its primary weapons array. A third had its bridge section torn open, exposing it to the vacuum of space. "Impossible," Krester shouted. "How are they penetrating our shields?" His science officer's voice shook as he answered. "Sir, their weapons are physical projectiles, not energy-based. Our shields are calibrated for plasma and laser defense. These solid rounds are passing right through." The drone swarm reached the Valorian fleet. Thousands of small, maneuverable targets, each one too small for the massive Valorian weapons to track effectively. They swarmed over the huge ships like insects, targeting sensor arrays, communication dishes, weapon mounts. They didn't have the power to destroy the Valorian vessels, but they didn't need to. They just needed to blind them, to confuse them, to break their coordination. A Valorian destroyer tried to swat the drones away with its point defense weapons. It managed to destroy hundreds of them, but thousands more kept coming. The destroyer's weapons overheated from continuous firing, and in that moment of vulnerability, a human missile found its way through the drone screen and struck the destroyer's reactor core. The explosion lit up space like a new star. When the light faded, the destroyer was gone, completely destroyed. That was the moment Admiral Kreshitar realized he had made a terrible mistake. "All ships, fall back to defensive formation," he ordered. "Recalibrate shields for physical projectiles. Someone find me a solution to these drones." But the human ships weren't giving them time to regroup. They moved like predators, striking at weak points, exploiting every gap in the Valorian formation. They were smaller than the Valorian vessels, but they were faster. Much faster. They could accelerate, turn, and stop in ways that should have torn their hulls apart from the stress. The truth was that human ships were built differently. The Valorians built their ships large to intimidate and to carry massive weapons. Humans built their ships for performance. Every system was optimized. Every piece of technology served a purpose. There was no wasted space, no decorative elements, nothing that didn't contribute to making the ship better at fighting or surviving. And the human crews didn't need to be as large. Automation and AI handled tasks that required dozens of Valorian crew members. A human ship with 60 crew members could match the performance of a Valorian ship with 400. Marcus Webb monitored the battle displays, calling out targets. "Commander, we've disabled 8 Valorian ships. 3 are destroyed. The rest are pulling back. Don't let them reform, Sarah ordered. All ships press the attack. Target their communication relays. I want their fleet coordination broken. The human ships surged forward. More railgun rounds. More missiles. More drone swarms. The Valorian fleet, so confident minutes ago, was now in complete disarray. Ships collided with each other trying to evade human fire. Commanders shouted contradictory orders. The perfect military machine that had conquered 23 civilizations was falling apart. On his bridge, Kreshtar watched his fleet being torn apart by vessels that looked like toys compared to his warships. His pride wouldn't let him accept what his eyes were showing him. These primitives, these weak creatures from an unknown world, were winning. Sir, we've lost 12 ships, his tactical officer reported, his voice barely above a whisper. 15 more are heavily damaged. The fleet is requesting permission to withdraw. Kreshtar wanted to refuse. He wanted to order his ships to fight to the last. But he was a warrior, not a fool. Staying here would accomplish nothing except getting more of his people killed. All ships retreat, he said, each word feeling like a knife in his chest. Fall back beyond the edge of the system. We will regroup and reassess. The Valorian fleet turned and fled, their massive engines pushing them away from Earth as fast as they could go. The human ships pursued for a while, harrying the retreat, making sure the Valorians kept running. Then one by one they broke off and returned to their defensive positions. On the Pathfinder, Sarah Chen allowed herself a small smile. Stand down from combat status. Maintain alert level 2. Get damage reports from all ships. Marcus checked his console. Commander, we took some hits, but nothing critical. The Resolute has damage to her port engine. The Defiant lost some sensor arrays, but overall we're in good shape. And the Valorians? 12 ships destroyed. At least 15 heavily damaged. The rest fled with various levels of damage. Commander, we won. We actually won. Sarah's smile faded. We won a battle, Marcus, not the war. They'll be back. And next time they'll be ready for our tactics, she was right. At the edge of the solar system, Admiral Kreshtar was already composing his report to the Valorian Council. He described the human weapons, their tactics, their capabilities. He recommended a full military mobilization. The humans were not primitives with stolen technology. They were a genuine threat. 3 days later, the Council of Five met in emergency session. They read Kreshtar's report in stunned silence. Then they read the intelligence reports from the subjugated worlds, reports of uprisings, reports of rebellion. The conquered species had heard about the Valorian defeat. They were starting to believe that the Empire wasn't invincible after all. Council leader Vexton stood before the assembled government. We face a crisis unlike any in our history. These humans have done what no species has done before. They have defeated a Valorian fleet in open combat. And now our empire is showing cracks. Rebellions are spreading. Our subject worlds are questioning our authority. He paused, letting his words sink in. There's only one solution. We must make an example of these humans. We must show the galaxy what happens to those who defy us. I am calling for total war mobilization. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon. We will assemble a fleet so large that no power in the galaxy can stand against it. Another council member spoke up. That will leave our other territories undefended. It won't matter, Vexton replied coldly. Once we crush the humans, once we broadcast their destruction across the galaxy, the rebellions will end. Fear will return. Order will be restored. But we must act decisively. We must act with overwhelming force. 3 weeks after the first battle, the Valorian Imperial fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system. 347 warships arranged in perfect military formation. It was a sight that had made entire civilizations surrender without firing a shot. The largest military force in known history, all focused on one small blue planet. At the center of the fleet, aboard the Imperial flagship Domination, Emperor Vralthon sat on his command throne. He was old by Valorian standards, but his mind was sharp and his determination was absolute. He had ruled the Empire for 40 years. He had crushed rebellions. He had expanded Valorian territory. He would not be defeated by primitives. Begin the advance, he commanded. All ships maintain formation. Weapons ready, shields at maximum. Today we teach the galaxy an important lesson. The massive fleet began moving into the solar system. They moved slowly, deliberately, like a predator that knew its prey had nowhere to run. On Earth, alarms sounded in every military installation. Billions of people watched their screens as news broadcasts showed the approaching fleet. Some prayed. Some cried. Some simply held their loved ones close. But none of them ran. There was nowhere to run to. This was humanity's home. They would defend it or die trying. Commander Sarah Chen stood in the Coalition Command Center deep beneath the surface of Earth. Around her, hundreds of military personnel worked at their stations, coordinating the defense of their homeworld. Holographic displays showed the entire solar system, marked with thousands of symbols representing human defensive positions. Secretary General Maria Santos stood beside her. "How bad is it, Commander?" 347 Valorian ships against our 17 frontline vessels, Sarah replied calmly. "By conventional thinking, we should lose in minutes. But we're not going to lose. No, ma'am. We're not. Because we're not fighting a conventional battle." Sarah pressed a button on her console. The holographic display zoomed out, showing the entire solar system. "For 50 years, we've been building defenses. Not just ships, everything, every planet, every moon, every large asteroid. We've turned our entire solar system into one massive weapon." She pointed to markers orbiting Earth. 200 orbital weapons platforms, each carrying enough firepower to cripple a Valorian cruiser, hidden in civilian satellites. They've been scanning past the Valorian sensors for weeks. Her finger moved to the moon. 40 mass driver installations. Railguns the size of buildings capable of launching projectiles across millions of kilometers with perfect accuracy. Then, to Mars. Missile bases. 300 launch sites, each containing 50 missiles with AI guidance systems. The asteroid belt. 1,000 automated defense drones. Each one can operate independently for months. Jupiter's moons. More bases. More weapons. More surprises. She looked at Santos. "And then there's the Helios Array, our secret weapon. Something the Valorians don't even know is possible." Santos smiled grimly. "Then let's show them what humans can do." The Valorian fleet reached Mars orbit. Emperor Vralthon studied the displays showing the human defensive positions. 17 ships in orbit around Earth. Pathetic. "Begin bombardment," he ordered. "Target their orbital facilities first. Then their cities. I want this planet broken." The fleet's forward elements began powering up their main weapons. Plasma cannons that could melt continents. Graviton beams that could crush cities. Missiles that could penetrate deep underground. Then everything changed. The asteroid belt suddenly came alive. What the Valorians had thought were just rocks started moving, started accelerating, started heading directly toward the fleet. "Sir, multiple contacts," the sensor officer shouted. "Hundreds of them. They're powered. They're weapons platforms." Before Vralthon could respond, the first wave hit. Automated drones, each one programmed with one simple instruction: destroy Valorian ships. They came from above, below, from every direction. They were too small for the main weapons to target effectively, too numerous for point defense systems to stop them all. Explosions began rippling through the Valorian formation. Not enough to destroy the massive ships, but enough to damage sensors, disable weapons, cause chaos. "Return fire," Vralthon ordered. "All ships engage." The Valorian fleet opened fire on the drones. They destroyed hundreds, thousands, but more kept coming. And while the Valorians were focused on the drones, they didn't notice the larger threats approaching. From the direction of Mars, 300 missiles launched simultaneously. Each one accelerated to incredible speeds. Each one guided by an AI that could adapt to enemy countermeasures. Each one carrying enough explosive force to crack a warship's hull. "Incoming missiles," the tactical officer reported. "Too many to intercept all of them." The missiles struck. Even with Valorian point defense destroying most of them, dozens got through. Explosions bloomed across the fleet. 5 ships were destroyed outright. 10 more suffered critical damage. The perfect formation began to break apart as ships maneuvered to avoid the continuing onslaught. "Where are these weapons coming from?" Vralthon demanded. "Everywhere, Your Majesty. The entire solar system is armed. We're detecting weapons platforms on moons, asteroids, even in orbit around the outer planets." Vralthon's expression darkened. The humans hadn't just defended their home world. They had turned their entire star system into a fortress. Every piece of rock, every satellite, every orbital station was a potential threat. "Forward," he commanded. "We push through. Focus all firepower on their ships, destroy their fleet, and the automated defenses will be leaderless." The fleet advanced, Taking losses but pushing forward through sheer numbers and determination, they reached lunar orbit. The 17 human ships rose to meet them, but as the Valorian ships opened fire, the moon itself opened fire. 40 massive railguns hidden on the dark side of the moon launched their projectiles. Each round was the size of a small building, moving at velocities that made them nearly impossible to intercept. The rounds tore through the Valorian fleet like a hot knife through butter. Shields failed, hulls cracked. 8 more Valorian ships were destroyed in seconds. The fleet's advance faltered. "Your Majesty, we're taking heavy losses," the fleet coordinator reported. 28 ships destroyed. 45 heavily damaged. "We can't sustain these casualties." Vralthon slammed his fist on his throne. "We have 300 ships. They have 17. Press the attack!" The human ships engaged, using the same tactics that had worked in the first battle. Hit and run, never staying in one place, always moving, using speed and agility to compensate for smaller numbers. The orbital platforms added their fire, creating a kill zone around Earth that destroyed any Valorian ship that ventured too close. The battle raged for 3 hours. The Valorians kept coming, kept dying. They managed to destroy 4 human ships through sheer weight of fire, but it cost them 30 more of their own vessels. Then Sarah Chen decided it was time to show them humanity's final card. "Activate the Helios array," she commanded quietly. Around the sun, hidden for years, thousands of satellites activated, each one equipped with powerful mirrors and focusing lenses. They had been placed there over decades, waiting for this moment, waiting to turn humanity's own star into a weapon. The satellites adjusted their positions with perfect precision. Calculations performed by quantum computers determined exact angles, exact positions. The mirrors aligned and the sun's light focused into a beam of pure energy. The beam was 3 meters wide. It carried more energy than every nuclear weapon humanity had ever built combined. And it was aimed directly at a Valorian dreadnought. The beam struck. The dreadnought's shields, powerful enough to withstand plasma torpedoes and energy weapons, meant nothing against the concentrated power of a star. The shields failed in milliseconds. The armor vaporized. The ship split in half. Atmosphere and crew expelled into space, and then both halves exploded as their reactors overloaded. From activation to destruction, 4 seconds. "Retarget," Sarah said. "Fire again." The satellites adjusted. Another beam. Another dreadnought destroyed. The Valorian fleet began to panic. "They've weaponized their star," someone shouted on Vralthon's bridge. "Your Majesty, we need to withdraw." "No," Vralthon roared. "We can't withdraw. If we fail here, the entire empire will crumble. Every conquered world will rise up. We must win no matter the cost." He turned to his personal guard. "Prepare my shuttle. I'm going down to the command ship's reactor core." His officers stared at him in shock. "Your Majesty, what are you planning? These humans love their planet so much? Then they can die with it. Activate the stellar destabilization device." The stellar destabilization device, a weapon so terrible it had been banned by Galactic Treaty hundreds of years ago, a weapon that could cause a star to go supernova, destroying everything in the system. The Valorians had kept one secretly for use as a last resort. "Your Majesty, that will destroy our fleet as well," an officer protested. "I know," Vralthon said coldly, "but it will also destroy the humans. And that's all that matters. The Empire will survive. These primitives will not." Deep in the Domination's engineering section, the device activated. It would take 48 hours to charge. Then it would fire a pulse of exotic particles into Earth's sun. The sun would destabilize. Within days, it would go supernova. The hangar bay of the Pathfinder was quiet despite the chaos of battle raging outside. Sarah Chen stood before her strike team. 4 people. That was all. 4 people to save 13 billion lives. Marcus Webb checked his weapon for the 3rd time. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the fleet's best engineer, was reviewing technical schematics of Valorian ships on her portable display. Lieutenant James Rodriguez, a former Special Forces Marine, stood perfectly still, his face calm and focused. "This is a volunteer mission," Sarah said quietly. "I want to be clear about that. Our chances of success are low. Our chances of survival are even lower. If anyone wants to back out, now is the time." No shame in it. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. They all just looked at her with determined expressions. Sarah nodded, feeling a mixture of pride and sadness. "All right then. Let's go save the world. They boarded the Wraith, a small stealth ship designed for exactly this kind of mission. No heavy weapons, no armor, just speed, stealth technology, and enough engine power to get them where they needed to go. The Wraith launched into the chaos of battle. Explosions lit up space around them. Valorian ships fired at human vessels. Human weapons struck back. Debris from destroyed ships drifted everywhere. It was the perfect cover for a small, stealthy ship to slip through unnoticed. Marcus piloted with expert precision, weaving between larger ships using debris as cover, keeping their energy signature as low as possible. The Valorian flagship Domination loomed ahead, enormous and terrible. It was 10 kilometers long, covered in weapons and armor. Getting inside would be nearly impossible. There, Yuki said, pointing at her display. Maintenance port on the lower hull. It's small, designed for repair drones. Their sensors probably aren't watching it closely during battle. Can we fit through it? Marcus asked. Barely. And I mean barely. You're going to have to be perfect. Marcus smiled grimly. I'm always perfect. He brought the Wraith in low, approaching the Domination from below where its main weapons couldn't track them. The maintenance port was only slightly larger than their ship. Marcus lined up the approach, killed their engine at the last moment to avoid detection, and let momentum carry them in. The Wraith scraped through the port with centimeters to spare on each side. They were in. Docking successful. Marcus whispered, as if speaking too loudly might give them away. We're inside their outer hull. Now what? Yuki consulted her schematics. The stellar destabilization device will be in their main engineering section, about 2 kilometers from here. We'll need to go through service tunnels and maintenance corridors. If we're lucky, we won't run into anyone. They weren't lucky. The team moved through the Valorian ship as quietly as possible. The corridors were huge, designed for Valorian crew members who were much larger than humans. Everything was built on a massive scale, making Sarah and her team feel tiny and exposed. They had made it halfway to engineering when they turned a corner and came face to face with a Valorian patrol. 6 soldiers, fully armed, looking just as surprised as the humans. For one frozen second, nobody moved. Then everyone moved at once. James opened fire first, his weapon designed to punch through Valorian armor. 2 soldiers went down. Marcus threw a flash grenade that exploded in brilliant light, temporarily blinding the remaining Valorians. Sarah and her team ran past them, knowing that every second counted now. Alarms would be sounding. More soldiers would be coming. Go, go, go! James shouted, covering their retreat as the Valorians recovered and returned fire. They ran through corridors, taking turns at random, trying to lose their pursuers while still heading toward engineering. Behind them, they could hear the sound of many footsteps. The Valorians were mobilizing to find the intruders. Left here, Yuki guided them, checking her display while running. Through that door, then down 3 levels. They burst through doors, slid down access ladders, squeezed through maintenance tunnels. The Valorian ship was a maze, but Yuki's schematics kept them moving in the right direction. Finally, they reached a sealed door with Valorian writing on it. This is it, Yuki said breathlessly. Engineering. The device is on the other side. Can you open it? Sarah asked. Yuki pulled out a small device and attached it to the door's control panel. Valorian computer systems are actually pretty simple once you understand them. They're not used to people trying to hack them. Give me 30 seconds. You've got 20, Marcus said, watching the corridor behind them. They're coming. Yuki's fingers flew over her device. The door made a grinding sound and began to open. Got it. They rushed inside and sealed the door behind them. The engineering section was enormous, filled with massive machines and glowing power conduits. And in the center, surrounded by a protective energy field, was the stellar destabilization device. It looked like a sphere of dark metal covered in strange symbols, pulsing with an evil red light. That's it, Yuki confirmed, and it's already active. We need to disable it in the next 20 minutes or it will reach critical mass and activate automatically. Can you disable it? Sarah asked. Yuki approached the device, studying it carefully. Maybe the protective field is a problem, and even if I get through that, Valorian technology is different from ours. I'll need time to figure out how it works. You'll have it, Sarah promised. She turned to Marcus and James. Set up defenses. They'll be coming through that door any minute. Marcus and James moved quickly, overturning equipment to create cover positions. They checked their weapons and ammunition. Not enough for a prolonged fight, but enough to buy Yuki the time she needed. The door exploded inward. Valorian soldiers poured through, dozens of them, firing as they came. Marcus and James returned fire, their weapons blazing. Valorians fell, but more kept coming. "Yuki, how's it going?" Sarah shouted over the sound of gunfire. "I've almost got the field down," Yuki replied, her hands working frantically at her device. "Just a few more seconds." A Valorian plasma bolt struck near James, superheating the metal and sending shrapnel into his leg. He grunted in pain but kept firing. "Running low on ammunition." "Keep them back," Sarah ordered, joining the fight with her own weapon. The protective field around the device flickered and died. Yuki rushed forward and placed her hands on the sphere. It was warm to the touch, almost hot. She could feel the energy pulsing through it. "It's not designed to be shut down," she said, more to herself than anyone else. "The Valorians built it as a one-way weapon. Once it starts, it's supposed to finish. But everything has a power source. Everything needs energy. If I can just find the connection point." More Valorians were coming. Marcus's weapon ran dry. He drew a knife, preparing for close combat. James was down to his last magazine. Sarah's rifle was overheating from continuous fire. Then the door at the far end of engineering opened. Emperor Vralthon himself entered, surrounded by his personal guard. He wore powered armor that made him look even larger and more terrifying. When he spoke, his voice boomed through the chamber. "So the primitives have come to die in person. How brave, how foolish." Sarah stepped forward, placing herself between the Emperor and Yuki. "It's over, Emperor. Your fleet is destroyed. Your empire is falling apart. End this now before more people die." Vralthon laughed. "My empire will survive. It has survived for 3,000 years, but your entire species will be nothing but dust, scattered across space when your star explodes. At least you'll die knowing you were important enough for an emperor to personally oversee your extinction." "I found it," Yuki shouted. "The power coupling. But I can't just disconnect it. The energy needs somewhere to go or it will discharge randomly. The whole ship could explode." Sarah understood immediately. "Can you redirect it?" "Yes, but it has to go somewhere that can absorb a massive energy surge. Like a ship's main reactor, or a shield generator, or..." Yuki's eyes widened. "Or back into the ship's own power core." "Do it," Sarah ordered. "That will destroy the flagship." "We'll die too. Better 4 of us than 13 billion. Do it now." Yuki's hands moved across the device's control surface, her knowledge of human engineering helping her understand the Valorian technology. Different principles, same basic physics. Energy had to flow somewhere. And if she could redirect it, Emperor Vralthon realized what was happening. He charged forward, his guards firing to cover his advance. Marcus tackled one guard, his knife finding gaps in the armor. James took down another despite his wounded leg. Sarah fired her last rounds, trying to slow the Emperor down. But Vralthon was too strong, too fast. He reached Sarah and backhanded her aside. She hit the wall hard, her vision blurring. The Emperor raised his weapon, pointing it at Yuki. "Step away from the device, human." Yuki looked up at him. Her finger hovered over the final control. "No," she said simply. She pressed the button. The device's energy, meant to destabilize Earth's sun, reversed course. It flowed back through the power conduits, back into the Domination's reactor core. Alarms began screaming throughout the ship. "What have you done?" Vralthon roared. "Saved my home," Yuki replied. The ship shuddered. Marcus grabbed Sarah, dragging her to her feet. "We need to go." "Now, James," Sarah shouted. James was pinned down by Valorian fire. "Go, get to the ship." "I'll hold them off." "Lieutenant, that's an order." "Fall back!" James looked at her, smiled sadly, and shook his head. "With respect, Commander, no.